All right, we're back with best cast of characters.
Hooray!
Jason had to step out, but I'd like to welcome Jan Ochoa to his very first Game of the Year experience.
Hey guys, what did I miss?
Hopefully you
A lot.
Nothing. I don't know.
It's been going quick.
I
Yeah.
trust.
Okay.
I trust
Hey, Jan,
you.
what was your favorite Mario capture?
Sonic Mania.
All right.
Okay, and then you missed nothing.
Yeah.
Cool.
It won.
I trust you were issued the proper protective gear at the door.
Yes, sir. I got a towel and some goggles.
All right.
Yeah.
You're good.
All right.
You're in the splatter area.
Best cast of characters.
Okay.
It's new.
Yes.
Yeah. Like best ensemble, best
Best groupings. But
there's a lot of
characters work well
Best
together.
crew.
I feel like that's this
Best posse.
it seems like there was just a little bit more of that this year, where you're like, man, all the characters in this are.
Yeah,
are-
I think when we were talking through nominees for other categories, we realized that there are games this year that just have a good group of characters.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And it's fun to watch them interact and do their thing.
Yeah.
Greater than the sum of their parts.
Yes.
Let's say. The casts nominated in this category are Yakuza 0, Nier Automata, Pyre, Tacoma, What Remains of Edith Finch, Night of the Woods, Wolfenstein II, Battle Chef Brigade, Dream Daddy, Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, Persona 5, Subsurface, Circular, Cuphead, Mario & Rabbids, Mario Odyssey, and HQ.
Somebody drilling.
Somebody's always
Is
drilling.
that you? Is that you?
No, you're just hearing
All right.
things.
Scott's the only good part of HQ.
Yeah.
Sharon's okay.
Sharon's nice.
Sharon's okay.
Sharon's okay. Scott's boy
Scott's
is.
boy sucks.
He sucks.
I've never seen him.
And the chat sucks.
Chat.
the
yeah.
chat's real bad.
That's worst character.
And the
Yeah.
behind the scenes characters
Yeah.
seem to
Yes.
suck.
Yeah.
Worst chat.
All
Yeah,
right.
I don't
HQ
think
doesn't
HQ.
By
is
HQ.
gonna be.
I also think Edith Finch probably doesn't end up here. Like, there's a lot of cool individual stories in that game, but I don't think that it quite fits into the spirit of what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I like the cast of characters in Yakuza 0, but I'm not sure I like them in the top 3, as there are 3 other things on here that I like better.
I
would pull for Yakuza. Like, those characters are great.
It's- I think
just
that one's
hearing
in
you guys
consideration.
talk about a lot of its characters as someone who hasn't played Yakuza makes them sound pretty cool.
They
There
are
are
very
a ton
cool.
too, and they're all pretty interesting and well written. Like all those mob bosses, Kiryu and the kind of like
And even
good
just
guys.
even just some of the incidental people you meet along the way, like that weird cop that has the fight club in the underground river fight club in fucking Osaka,
Yeah.
and like the dude who was posing as Makoto.
The errand boy boyfriend, the statue that has to poop, the
Tachibana.
breakdancing guys, Tachibana,
Miracle Johnson.
girl that wants pizza, Steven Spielberg,
Nugget the chicken.
yeah,
Yeah.
the chicken.
The slot car racing guy, like there's
Nugget.
The dominatrix you have to coach.
Right.
the weird old man who just sleeps in your real estate office,
Mr. Libido,
the radio host guy that you'd send the letters into,
the hostesses from the club.
It is a large cast of characters.
and I think
I like them all.
I think a lot of it's pretty good to great.
I would leave it on here for now, but
There are
a
some
lot-
stronger
games
on it, maybe.
There are a lot of things on here.
I would say I really like Uncharted's characters. I like the main two especially. I like their relationship more than I think
Right.
I like the entire cast of characters.
Yeah.
Like I think them two are really interesting characters. But
Yeah, but like the bad guy's really like one note.
I think he's a better
I think
bad
it's
guy than
interesting,
they have
yeah.
done before, because he's not just in it for glory. He's trying to bring about an Indian civil war.
Oh, okay.
right.
Like
I
he-
think he's interesting.
Like he's actually basically a fucking nationalist who's trying to get a hold of like a revered artifact to inspire people to rise up against the government. Like it's actually kind of topical.
I liked Rafe better in 4
I mean,
as a sniveling villain.
I mean, he's more
I
scenery
don't know.
chewing.
I was going
but-
to say,
I
like,
like
this
this
sounds
better than
better than other Uncharted villains,
Yeah.
but also I think the bar is pretty low.
yeah, sure.
yeah.
yeah, I think all of the characters are pretty cool, but I don't think there are a ton of them, and I think it's more the relationships that are interesting.
Yeah. And the dialogue between the two
Yeah,
is
totally.
really good.
I mean, I think that is this category, but
I think
if you
there's
want to
stronger
cut
entries.
it, that's fine. But I think that is
that is kind of what we're talking
Okay.
about. But it's probably not top 3.
I just thought he was trying to blow up a city with a train. I didn't know it was actually like this whole thing.
I mean, he was trying to do that.
that's the whole reason he wants the tusk to like. Well, I mean, whatever. There's a late game reveal that he has other motives too. But
Oh, okay.
like, that's his nominally. He's trying to inspire people to fucking revolt.
Does Cuphead make top 3 here? Like,
It's best cast of bosses, that's for sure.
There's a lot of really cool stuff in Cuphead, but I don't know.
Yeah,
There's not enough interaction.
Yeah.
I
I
think
think
that's one
that's
of the
fair.
things that will drive.
There's no
this category.
Cuphead hang sesh where everyone's just kicking it and Mugman's there.
Well, there is some
doing
art
what
that
Mugman
actually
do.
implies that they are.
Really? Is this
hangout
official art or
sessions.
fan made art?
I
don't think it's
know.
official.
It looks pretty good to me. So
All
it
right.
must be official.
Because I think in that art they were doing more than hanging out.
Oh,
Something was
they're
hanging out.
Yeah.
I do think Cuphead has a very cool set of characters. I think that they are interesting. I realize the interpersonal stuff, they're very on the surface. But I do think they are interesting, and it's an interesting set of bosses. And I guess if you're going to make that argument, I think the same could be made about Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
Where I
kinda
think
with
it's
you.
like
Yeah.
an interesting group of people,
It's
interesting
not.
character
Yeah.
designs, maybe more so than interpersonal character
Definitely.
story stuff.
Yeah, I don't think Mario should be on this
Yeah.
list. I also don't think I would put Mario and Rabbids on this
Man,
list.
it's so good.
Because I just,
They do much better than expected work
Yes.
with those characters.
Except when they do worse than expected because all they did to name those characters was do blank, like Rabid Blank.
Yeah.
I think that's,
But that's actually kind of funny.
No, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Oh, right.
I think it's hilarious that they didn't even bother to come up with names for those rabid characters.
The rabbits have no names. They're whatever they want to be.
I like all the characters in Battle Chef a whole lot. I think they make up a pretty good ensemble, but the problem is you don't get to spend enough time with any of them outside of like a couple.
Yeah, Mina and Thrash are the only ones that get I think enough screen
And
time.
like a little Ziggy and but even like Shiv was a really cool character, but they didn't do anything with
Yeah,
her.
Kieran
and-
doesn't feel like she gets enough time.
Yeah.
I wanted way more from the weird doming hunter lady
Yeah,
who was ordering me around.
or the quick chef lady who runs the restaurant.
Yeah, I like her little relationship arc with the dwarf guy, but that still also feels like it's just kind of happening in the background.
Yeah.
You're not really getting a whole lot out of it. That's what that game needed was just more time for those characters to breathe.
you're saying you want some Battle Chef fan fiction.
I want some official.
It's out
Okay.
there. Oh, I bet. Oh, it's official.
So wait,
Tacoma?
are we taking Mario and Rabbids off?
I think we'll take that off.
I think that's a bummer, but okay.
I just looking at the rest of this list. I don't see
I don't see it
how
hitting
how that stays.
Tacoma.
Tacoma?
I mean, if you don't like those characters and that personality, it's another case where that game doesn't work at all. And I think that they do a pretty good job of establishing, the tensions and the friendships and the relationships between those characters and making you care about them and their plight.
They also feel like real people to me, which
Yeah.
I really appreciated.
But it isn't going out of its way to charm you, maybe the way some of these other games are, or where it's the writing is there very much in service of just kind of getting you through that story. I don't know. Tacoma, I think, is a strong one, but I don't know if it's top 3.
I don't know if it's top 3 either, but I do think it's a strong candidate. And I think there's a lot of cool interpersonal stuff, and I think a lot of the characters are charming.
Yeah.
Not necessarily so much in them as individuals are charming the same way that Greg from Night in the Woods is
Right.
charming, but their interpersonal relationships I think are very charming
Yeah.
and endearing.
They make you like some of the characters that at the outset you're not necessarily sure you're going to.
Yeah, and they even make the robot AI guy kind of
And they do that subtly.
endearing. Yes, sympathetic.
They
exactly.
don't go out of their way to make that character seem like a really nice, endearing AI. It's limited in what it can do, but
Yeah.
its actions actually justify you caring about it.
I like that you don't realize it is a character until the last hour of the game.
Yeah.
So we keep or
I don't know.
Keep or
Maybe
cut?
keep
like
for
maybe
now,
table it for a bit.
but-
Yeah.
All right.
Is Subsurface Circular going to be a top 3 here?
I don't know. I think it has a really cool cast of characters. I think it does AI and robots really interestingly. They do have a lot of stuff of some characters are some robots, depending on their jobs, are going to be more intelligent than other robots. And that's really interesting how it sort of plays in with the dialogue options and how they talk to each other, and some being okay, well, you're a smart robot, so you think you're better than me or whatever. And I think that there's a lot of really interesting stuff with that. And it's also just they're fun characters too, where there's ones who will just listen to music and don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
But
think
would you
it's-
say that it stays on here on a list that has Dream Daddy, Night in the Woods, Pyre, Nier, Yakuza?
probably not.
Some of this other stuff.
What would you cut to keep it?
What?
What would you cut to keep it?
I think
Why
she's
do
saying
I
she
have to
wouldn't.
do one or the, I feel like I always have to do one or the other with my choices. But I feel like I don't think it'll hang. I think I'm
Okay.
saying is I don't think it's top 3. So I think that's fine.
All right.
Okay.
I do think it's very good though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's got its consideration here, but I'm gonna say that compared to some of these other games, I don't think Persona wins.
Wow,
Man,
I did not
that's
expect that.
That's strongly in my top 3.
Here's what my argument against it is that there are some great characters in that game, and like the ones that are great, like I really loved hanging out with, I like spending time with, I like doing stuff with them in that game. But the ones that are bad are really bad. Like there are some really boring, uninteresting characters that they underdevelop and don't do enough with. Like what's her name? The rich girl who joins your team.
Oh, see, I liked her a whole lot. I think she had the issue of coming in as being your last character, and so they had less time to work with her. And I think like her arc with her fiance and inheriting the fortune was like pretty good. I don't know.
I think pieces of that story are good, but I think she's underdeveloped, and the way they sort of have her crash into your team is a little awkward and disjointed.
I think the artist guy is way worse.
The artist guy is you're right. Yusuke is worse.
Yeah.
He is not a good character.
I really like all of the non-party member characters a whole lot, but you bring up a good point of like several of the core characters are just straight up underdeveloped or unlikable.
Yeah.
And I think that is a pretty good knock against it. When I'm looking at a lot of these other games, they don't have like single characters that stand out as being like not good.
Like when as much of an apologist for Ryuji as I am, like he was a very divisive character, and I kind of understand why, because he is so aggro and he is so like over the top about it that like I get why people don't like him.
Yeah. I just think he was written really well, and like that he was a perfect example of that kind of a guy. I really liked your arc with your family. I think it was I liked it better than the one in Persona 4 even. But
I think Sojiro definitely comes around and justifies, his actions and his behavior early in the game, and like you come to really like him. I think Futaba's stuff is maybe a little awkward in places, but like they make her a little more endearing as time goes on. I think I wanted a lot more from On than what they did with her. I felt like it was a very boilerplate story with her. I think, Makoto is the only one that really kind of gets the full like amount of attention that she deserves. Sure. And also, by the way, Makoto's a cop. Like, I'm sorry, but Makoto's totally a fucking cop.
Oh, man.
So are we cutting Persona 5? I did not see that coming.
I would put it in... I personally don't see 3 other games that beat it here, but...
What did you take off, Ben?
What would I take off?
Yes.
Tacoma.
I thought that was off already.
That was in consideration.
Tacoma doesn't seem like
okay.
it's a top 3.
But there's way more support for it than Persona.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And again, I'm not saying Persona has a bad cast. I think a lot of it is actually very good. I don't feel as strongly about it as I do many of the other games on this list.
Night in the Woods has to be on this list, right?
I agree.
Agreed.
I feel like that we maybe know what the list is then. I don't know.
Well, it's
maybe
tough.
not actually.
I don't know.
There's like 5 on here I feel very strongly about.
As much of a Nier guy as I am, I feel like so Nier is a weird one for me. The core 3 the 3 androids I feel like are all kind of the same characters in different ways. I feel like they like Nier I was going to say Nier 9B and
there you go.
9S and 2B's relationship is really good, as is like 9S and A2's kind of rivalry thing, and like there's a lot of really good one-on-one relationships and stuff, and like how certain characters interact with each other, but like I wouldn't call that an ensemble necessarily.
Yeah, it's a lot of characters that have like their own arc.
Yeah,
and you interact with them as this,
and they're all interwoven in interesting ways, but it doesn't
like it's arguably more about the stories than the personalities.
Yes, exactly. I could see us cutting Nier.
Same here.
Compared to some of these other ones, and I think Nier has gotten its props in places where I wanted it, and I think there's a strong case to be made here for some of those cast members, but like some of these games do much better work with their full cast.
Yeah,
agreed.
Also agree.
I think, boy, this is tough.
I think Dream Daddy is a strong candidate.
Me too.
Like, I think all of those characters are very good. They feel very fleshed out. They're very fun and funny. They all feel like they have their own voice and style and personality.
They're dynamic.
They're dynamic, absolutely. And it's
like
interesting
the stuff
how
you were
they
talking with Damien's
Yeah.
like third date reveal.
Yeah,
and
totally. And like there's a lot of good interpersonal stuff with you and like your character, your dad. And I also think like a lot of the stuff with your daughter and how your daughter interacts with like some of the other kids in the game as well. I think there's a lot of good stuff.
And I think it's very diverse, and I don't just
Yeah.
mean that in like a multicultural way. Like they are diverse in like their personality types.
Yeah, totally.
They are diverse. They go beyond their surface impression, which I think you have to go through the different dates
Yeah.
to see that stuff, which I think is that game, right? Like that game lives and breathes by its cast of characters.
It's also that genre. Like you can't do one of those games successfully if you don't like create a good breadth of personalities. And it sounds like Dream Daddy does a great job
I
of
think
that.
absolutely, yeah. And they aren't just like surface level stereotypes. It's not just like jock dad, like sensitive dad. It's like they are much more
they go
layered
much
than
deeper.
It's good
into
because it does
those
present
notions.
that at first,
Yeah.
but then
Look, there's a lot of ways for that game to not do this and be
Right.
really terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I saw 3 lines of dialogue from the daughter and was like, I fucking hate this. Yes. Like just everything, every word out of her mouth particularly was just like, this is like super annoying. Like I cannot deal.
I thought she was a believable youth type.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that's-
she's fun.
I
think
would
she's,
also
like, smart
probably
and-
agree with that, but
Like she's believable in the same way like May is a believable personality
Yeah.
in Night in the Woods. You know, like May is an
I thought
intense
you were
and
talking about Overwatch's
Yeah.
man. I'm like,
May's a very believable.
yeah,
character.
very much so.
Yes.
I'm with you, Jeff.
Everything about the writing in Dream Daddy made me want to not play Dream Daddy.
Yes.
But anyway, but I think that's a strong case for it. I think that makes sense. And I think that really is the spirit of this category. So then
I would drop Tacoma. I
Yeah.
like
As
Tacoma
compared to some of these other ones,
but
yes.
yeah, it feels maybe a little
competition is
shallow.
way too
yeah.
stiff. Does anyone want to like really go to bat for Pyre here?
I will.
I would.
Like as our third
Well,
over this other
Okay,
stuff?
so I didn't play through all of Night in the Woods, so I would take Pyre over Night in the Woods, but I understand the arguments for Night in the Woods. Pyre is again another game about building your team and making the choices according to your team to move that game forward. And I think all the wants and needs are expressed very well for each team member, and like they do get fleshed out, kind of almost in a Dream Daddy-esque way of going beyond the surface of like Jodariel is this big tough woman with horns, but really she has all this other backstory. Sir Gilman, you get what his motivations are. I think they explore that stuff.
And you think that stuff's good? Because
Yes.
because obviously there's going to be a big backstory behind these characters, but
yes,
it's
I
a
do
matter of
think
like
it is
how
good.
well is
I
it
think it's
nailed.
well written.
And
you're like-
it's not just about the characters that are on your team, which are a huge part of it, but like the interactions you have with the rival teams as well, like what their motivations are, why they're there, are actually pretty varied, and like the way things play out, like if they win versus if they lose, like I think the dynamics of that, like I really appreciated the level of detail they kind of put into that.
Especially, I really like I only played through like the first 5 hours, but I really appreciate the zero sum aspect of that story. That
Right.
there have to be winners and losers in this game. Like, there's no good outcome for everybody.
Yeah.
Like if you get out, then other people are getting fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
And
there's
even
a-
people on your own team, like not everyone on your own team is going to get out.
So would you call this list then Pyre, Night in the Woods, Dream Daddy?
I would maybe lean Pyre, Night in the Woods, Yakuza, but that's just because
Say it, Dan.
Yakuza and Wolfenstein.
I hear you like sucking in air.
Well, I mean, I just, those were the two I liked. I liked the cast of both those games a lot. And
Yeah, like I think the ensemble of Wolfenstein is really
Yeah.
great.
I would like to see Wolfenstein on this list.
my only issue with Wolfenstein is I feel like it's the same issue I had with Battle Chef Brigade, where I thought all the characters were interesting, but I just wish I had more.
like some of them I feel like you absolutely get enough from. Like Super Spesh got his time, and
Yeah.
I think he used it well. I think that Grace is well realized, but you don't get nearly enough with Horton or any of like his
Horton, the
crew
clarinet
team.
guy,
I think he's the one that I would say that's a real problem with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to see
By-
like
by
another
virtue-
act of that game that is just
yeah,
you and Horton
like
fucking
just,
shit up.
just by virtue of him being introduced so late.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of time for him to do much
Yeah.
else.
I like for me it would be Pyre, Wolfenstein, Dream Daddy, but I understand, like, again, not having played through Night in the Woods, I understand that game is the character development in that game. And, like, I think that's the only thing that would maybe take Wolfenstein off for me is, like, that game is not necessarily built about diving into each character to understand the game, whereas I think Pyre, Night in the Woods, and Dream Daddy, your job is to kind of discover these characters and to learn all about them. It's just not Wolfenstein's main objective.
It's a difference in purpose.
It's a difference in purpose. So I don't think Wolfenstein necessarily goes out of its way to explore it as deeply.
I think that is by design. Right?
Yeah,
It is.
It's about a range of characters from a bunch of different walks of life, all united in a very dire common purpose.
Yeah, and I think and to Wolfenstein 2's credit, I think they actually go above and beyond what they need to do with that stuff, with some of the submarine interaction in actually fleshing out these characters and more than their comic book fashion that they're kind of presented in. I just think, for me, Pyre, Dream Daddy do it with more purpose and more depth. And I assume Night in the Woods does that as well, from what I've heard.
Yeah, I think Wolfenstein, I like the cast of characters in Wolfenstein a lot. I like a lot of those characters a lot. I think they're all interesting, but I don't think there's I think there is some depth there, but I don't think there's as much depth to the characters as these other games.
It's a lot more cartoonish, and I think that, some of those cartoons are really, really good.
I don't think there's anything cartoonish about BJ's backstory in particular.
Well, no, BJ is not that.
Yeah,
we're talking about the other members of that cast that present
Max
themselves
Haas.
throughout the game.
And I don't think cartoonish is necessarily bad. I think part of that game is being overblown.
Totally. And that game tonally goes,
all over
on a
the place.
journey. Like when you get to that party scene on the Fergus.
I was going to say all of Fergus's arm stuff past the first instance of it is
like
very
for,
much a cartoon.
For as much as like the party scene, I think is like not well executed. I like that those characters are strong enough that you can have a big party sequence with them,
and you believe that
like,
they feel like they've earned this. This is our last
where it
hurrah.
happens in the story. I think is
there's the
cool.
good tension of knowing, like, all right, they need to blow off some steam before they maybe all go die.
I still need to see the Wyatt stuff because that stuff sounds like it's actually better.
Which is crazy because Fergus was better in the first game.
Well, it was just like a better health power up, right, with Fergus.
But Wyatt also gave you the better side character in the base in the first game.
Yeah, that's true. Like not getting Jimi Hendrix with Fergus was a huge bummer.
I like the
tough choices.
Also, let's not forget Ronald Reagan is in this game.
There is that.
I will say again, in terms of Pyre and Dream Daddy, I think the way the characters present themselves and your agency in discovering what the characters' stories are influence your gameplay. Like in Pyre, you're choosing based on your relationship with the characters you've met to do certain things, and the same thing exactly. I mean, that is Dream Daddy, right? Like based on your relationship with these characters. Whereas like Wolfenstein 2, I think it goes above and beyond, but it in the end doesn't affect the main core gameplay of that game. And it's not its fault; it is by design.
Beyond the first choice, like
beyond the first choice,
and I'd say like Night in the Woods is very much about like choices you make about who you hang out with and stuff like that. That is that game too.
It really does influence the whole game.
And there isn't necessarily a sense that like you're going to have a bad relationship with a character in that game if you don't choose to hang out with them. But I like that you did have to pick and choose your moments, and there are scenes in that game you'll never see if you don't choose to hang out with this person on this day.
It makes it stressful.
Yeah,
as someone who likes to see everything in a game and not play games twice. That's a hard.
That's why I like Dream or Night in the Woods because of that, because it kind of makes you not play it like a game.
And those scenes are all really good. Is the thing.
Yeah.
Like there isn't a bad one in there.
I should go back and watch the stuff I didn't see.
Yeah,
because I spent most of my time with Greg.
Like the scene with Angus in particular, like the time you get to hang out with him, like is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see a way for Night in the Woods to not be on this list, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think that the case for Dream Daddy sounds really strong. And I think the case for Pyre sounds really strong, honestly.
Yeah, I think those are my top
Like,
three.
I would probably lean in favor of Wolfenstein because I do like what it does, but like I just feel like the cases for those three are so strong. Like Yakuza 0, though. I mean, is that something?
It's got a very large cast. Oh, Dan, you haven't said anything about Yakuza, really? Well, you actually did.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah.
But like,
I feel like that's your strongest one.
But like Alex, I think you're probably one of the few people that played all this stuff. Would you take Yakuza 0 over?
The only one I haven't really played much of is Dream Daddy, and I mean, I did like what I played of it, and I think that the case that has been made for it is very strong. I really love the cast in Yakuza 0. Like, I think, Kiryu and Majima are both incredibly compelling, like, heroes of that story. I think that the villains are so much better than just kind of like, generic stereotypes of Yakuza heavies. I think the weird people you meet throughout that game.
There are a lot of good weirdos in that game.
And it's just, I don't know, like it just for the scope of what they're doing, it's impressive how many of those characters I still remember the interactions with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what sticks with me about that game, because it was the gameplay frustrated me, but all those characters and interactions were hilarious or really good and dramatic when they were supposed to be.
Like, I would go Yakuza, Pyre, Night in the Woods, but I think that the people who care about Dream Daddy have made a strong enough case for it that it maybe belongs on there. And if I had to kick one of those off, oh god, I think Pyre that cast is more important to what that game is doing.
Then Yakuza.
Because it's really important to Yakuza too. It's just such a different thing.
Also, like from the little bit of Pyre I played, I do need to play more of it. I really like all the other characters you meet along the way.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
even like Falcon Ron and
Falcon Ron is very good.
Falcon Ron's really good.
Like, nobody in that game feels like a fantasy stereotype in the way that a lot of stuff like that can be. Like, those personalities and the way that they just sort of subtly talk about the world, and the way that kind of fills out your knowledge of like everything that has gone on there and why all this shit is happening. Like, the writing does so much work to make that stuff happen.
Yeah. I also feel like you really care when someone is like, "Oh, I don't like that you just said that to me," and like there are a few moments where you can kind of flub up your dialogue choices or whatever, and or like not pick somebody for the rights, and people actually care, and it's like, ugh, I don't like that they're mad at me, kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm willing to go with Pyre, Night in the Woods, and Dream Daddy if that's where people are at.
That sounds good to me.
I think that I think that's the cases are very strong for that. Like, I went into this feeling pretty good about Wolfenstein being here, but I think these cases are really strong.
If you're not going to fight for it, I don't think I'm going to win by myself here. Even though I think that's insanity.
It's all Dan's favorite games.
Yeah. I love all the characters in those games.
I do too. Like, that's the thing. Like, this is not an indictment of these games. It's just that this is an incredibly strong category.
I think they do such a good job in Wolfenstein, though, of devising characters that are all affected by what's happening in different ways, that all come from different backgrounds, but they all dovetail into the same basic theme.
Right.
Like, BJ was raised by a horrible bigot. Like, Grace is a minority who is like has seen all this shit for years, since way before the Nazis came in. Like, she's been fighting white supremacy forever.
Yeah.
Like, you've got like Sigrun was born into it and like had to forcibly extricate herself from that life. I think there's an incredible, like, Set Roth is, like, as a Jew who had to escape a concentration camp to fight these people. Like, I think there's such an incredible range of characters that have incredibly high stakes in this fight, and they're all developed incredibly well.
I guess maybe one other thing I'd say about Wolfenstein is they are working off of that first game, which is not it shouldn't be disqualified because it's a sequel, but it gets to come in with you being attached to several characters already, and then expand on those relationships, which in a way works to its favor, but also in a way is like, these other games are all completely new.
Well, Yakuza has some of that stuff too, but like there are a ton of new characters.
I'm talking
in that
about the three that we were talking about.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I think if anything, they went above and beyond with BJ. Like, they totally could have just coasted on him through this entire game, but they actually gave him like a way more fleshed out and meaningful backstory than I ever would have imagined.
And just a huge arc through the present day stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think BJ is the strongest part of that game.
I don't know if I would say that. I think BJ's story is very strong and interesting, but I think BJ as a character is sometimes a little bit like he's a brooding, fighting guy. You know what I mean?
I think in that his personal arc reflects the arc of the movement. Like
I
they're
think
kind
that's
of
totally fair.
kind of one and the same.
Like, I do like in that game that they all recognize that BJ is the best at killing Nazis.
Yes,
and they constantly just say that, like, you're just really good at this.
You've done a lot of it. We just need you to do some more.
Just please, BJ. Yeah, okay.
And it works out because he likes it.
Yeah.
I think I would lean Wolfenstein over Yakuza, but I think that the other three are so strong, like, it's hard to imagine them not in the top three. Like, I think this is a very good top five.
Yeah.
I think all of these are very good, no question, but I think those other three use their characters in a way that's so meaningful to the story. And obviously Wolfenstein and Yakuza do that too, but I just think it's in a different way, and in a way that maybe doesn't go quite as deep as these other ones go.
and I think some of this ends up being like, it's probably no coincidence that the category ends up seeming a little bit biased in favor of games that are very much about their story, a little more low key and not like action games.
Right.
I think
because the games where the story is like one of the only things they have, like of course they're gonna spend more time on those things because the relationships of Night in the Woods and Dream Daddy, like that is that game.
What if it had action and characters though?
Well, so I think,
but that's not the category.
Yeah, it's not the
I don't
category.
care.
I think that's why, even though I really like Wolfenstein 2 and what they did with the characters, I'd be willing to cut it because I felt like I personally had more agency in developing the characters in the other games. Like they went along the routes that I picked because of my choices with those characters, and I made those characters. And I really, you get attachment, right? Like when you're like guiding these characters' choices based on the choices you make. And Wolfenstein 2 had not as much of that. You're kind of more just unpacking and discovering what they have instead of like I don't think there was that much that changed in Wolfenstein 2 on the character development path based on my actions with BJ, but I know there was based on like Dream Daddy and Pyre. I decided their fates. Not only their fates, their character development. Because Wolfenstein 2, I guess playing as BJ, you do kind of seal the fates of everybody.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. I do think this list is Pyre, Night in the Woods, Dream Daddy.
All right.
I'm cool with that.
And Yakuza, you're kind of just surfing through a ridiculous world.
Yeah.
You're just on a big wave of ridiculous people.
Yes.
It's a
I'm
great
punching
wave.
them.
It's a wave I loved riding.
Blah. Okay.
I think Night in the Woods takes it.
I think so too.
I think I
I'm
agree.
fine with that.
I love Dream Daddy, and I think there's a strong case for Dream Daddy as number one. But I think Night in the Woods is so good, so full, so rich, and like the characters feel like such real characters.
It's kind of how I feel about Pyre.
It's the quality of the writing and the dialogue
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like at some point, it's a taste. It's a personal taste thing. Like I think the stuff in Pyre is really good, but I also think it's. Well, I don't know. I guess it's not that it's easy to write stuff like Pyre, but there's something so difficult about writing authentic sounding, like young adult type stuff
Right.
that Night in the Woods nails it so fucking well.
Yeah.
And
It's the most earnest video game I've played
Yeah,
in a long time.
totally.
And on top of that, like it's not just those core four characters. Like the side characters
Parents.
get more than their share of
That
time
like
to.
teen on the rooftop. I love that.
Yeah, the teen on the rooftop, like
The
Selmer's.
astronomer.
The science teacher that you go like hunting for the constellations with. Like even the the youth pastor.
the Hot
like
Topic girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's like even the bit players in that game feel like I can remember my interactions with them very vividly.
I think that so there's a cliche for like animating, right? Of like it's super easy for animators to do aliens and fantastical creatures, but the hardest thing is to do a human because everybody recognizes when it's just a little bit off. And I feel like that's the kind of case you're making for Night in the Woods of like when this is wrong immediately because the things you're talking about are very real.
Yeah.
Jan, what do you think?
My votes just got eliminated.
Mine too.
Welcome to the team.
feeling.
You got to chime in.
Just like all of these other characters.
Same exact thing that Dan was going through. I loved the ensemble of Yakuza 0. I didn't think I could get attached to a chicken. Some of the reveals of some of those characters, just amazing. And Wolfenstein 2, Sister Grace. I'm halfway through Wolfenstein 2, so I don't know how everything plays out. But when she got introduced, I just felt incredibly empowered.
Good thing you weren't here yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I just felt incredibly empowered to seeing her get introduced. And I agree with Brad for BJ's arc from what I've seen so far. But the case for Night in the Woods, totally agree with. I could see that going in number one out of this top three.
Jeff, you know what this means?
What?
Something we can all feel good about.
That's a great top three.
I did the dance for the podcast listeners.
Yeah.
All right, best cast of characters goes to Night in the Woods, Pyre and Dream Daddy following up. It's time.
Is it time?
The beloved.
For the worst game
Can I go pee
that we
first?
play. Okay, fine.
Sorry.
Let's just take 5.
All right, we'll be right back.